The Great Pyramid was made to be more than just a demonstration of the wealth and the power that the pharaoh had. Its true purpose was actually to be an insanely fortified tomb. The ancient Egyptians believed that the pharaohs were deities on earth, and that in the afterlife they would ascend to join the Egyptian gods. To ensure a safe passageway to the heavenly realm, it was crucial that the pharaohs were left undisturbed after their passing. So, naturally, the only logical thing left for the Egyptians to do was to carve out and haul 2.3 million blocks of stone weighing a total of 5.7 million tons, or roughly 600 Eiffel Towers from Giza and its surroundings, to the pyramid's location to build an impenetrable fortress for the king to lay in. And so they did. The massive undertaking took only a short 20 years, which they managed to crunch down to due to the use of skilled workers and hired labor forces. Yup, you heard that right. The pyramids were not just simply made by slaves. It actually was a huge collaboration from the Egyptians altogether. Unfortunately, Pharaoh Khufu died before he could see his tomb finished, but the good old chaps the Egyptians were, they kept their promise and lay him in there anyway. Where did they put him inside? Here, in this hollowed out granite slab. Yep, that is the grave of the almighty pharaoh that had this entire pyramid built. It's almost like they ran out of budget and were like, meh, just throw him in there and close the chamber up. Which they did, by the way, by letting 3 huge blocks slide down this entire shaft to conceal the true path to the king's chamber. The other path, which just goes down and down, leads to a seemingly random chamber with another corridor after and below it that are both just dead ends? Strange. Speaking of strange, below the king's chamber is the queen's chamber, which never had something inside of it. Why was it built then? No one really knows. The most popular theory about the purpose of this chamber is that it used to house a life-size statue of the king himself. However, there are almost no claims to back that up. And speaking of even more strange, the clever ones among you might have wondered what those long tubes are for. Well, they were apparently for air ventilation. You can see them leave the king's chamber all the way to the outside here and on the opposite side there. But if their purpose is to ventilate air, then what are those two coming from the queen's chamber for? They don't even get close to the outside of the pyramid. Is it really just randomly made, like the entire underground section of the pyramid? Or are there untold secrets that we are yet to discover about this ancient structure? We don't know. I mean, we could ask the head architect over there, but we all know the #1 rule of time traveling is that we shouldn't change or interact with anything from the past. So I'm afraid we'll have to wait till someone smarter figures it out for us. What we don't have to figure out is what happened to the pyramid. Throughout the, once again, 4,500 years it stood proud, it has been hit by many earthquakes, lootings and empires, which caused the pyramid to slowly but surely change to the dusty pile of impressive Lego blocks it is today. When the modern archaeologists opened up the tomb for the first time, both the pharaoh's mummy and his immense wealth were already stolen. Bollocks. But yeah, as you can see, there is a lot of mystery shrouding the Great Pyramid of Giza. Some even claim that the pyramid was actually an old-school electricity generator, where hydrogen gas was used to somehow generate electricity that then was wirelessly transmitted by obelisks across Egypt or something? If that is true, I guess there is only one logical explanation. Aliens! Nah, I'm just kidding here, you little historian. Wireless electricity transportation and the pyramids being glorified power generators is obviously just foolish conspiracy talk. Well then, on to the second wonder. After you. The beautiful Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Built in the year 600 before Christ, it was often described as the Green Mountain within the heart of Babylon, which was an ancient city in what is nowadays Iraq. The garden hosted hundreds of different plants, trees and flowers, which it managed to do so by utilizing a surprisingly modern and effective water irrigation system. Water would be taken up to the top level by an early version of Archimedes' screw flow, where then the water would flow from the upper levels down past the beautiful greeneries all the way to the bottom, effectively watering the entire pyramid-like garden in one fell swoop. For the year 600 before Christ, that's some impressive engineering. Shame it might not be real though. What? Oh, did I forget to mention that this all might have never existed? Yeah, there is no archaeological evidence that the Hanging Gardens of Babylon ever stood here in Babylon. The only quote-unquote evidence we have of the place are scrolls and documents from the ancient Greek historians who wrote about it. Supposedly the ancient king Nebuchadnezzar II, which is a real name, yes, ordered for the gardens to be built because his wife, who was from a faraway region, got extremely homesick and missed the beautiful greeneries her birthplace was known for. So to help his queen get over her homesickness, the king ordered for the garden to be built so his wife would never miss the beautiful flora her own country had to offer. Ah, doesn't that sound like a piece straight from Shakespeare? Well, maybe it is. The past dozen years, archaeologists have looked far and wide through the ruins of Old Babylon. Yet they can't find anything close to what is described by the ancient historians. And that is why, if we want to be historically accurate, there is absolutely nothing to see here, as no one even knows what the gardens actually look like. Yeah. Enough void seeing. On to the Temple of Artemis. Okay, this is technically correct, but it's not the Temple of Artemis. It's more like a predecessor that was much simpler and, well, uglier. The reason why I brought us to this version is because there were actually 3 installments of the temple that existed, with the final third one being the one praised as an ancient world wonder. The first temple was made around the start of the Bronze Age as a place to worship the Greek goddess Artemis, who represented nature and fertility. Which was kind of important for the people cause, you know, it's 1200 BC. But unfortunately either the temple wasn't impressive enough, or the farmers had bad luck, because around the year 700 BC, a huge flood destroyed the exclusive temple and all the farmers' land around it. The surviving farmers concluded that this all happened because they didn't worship the goddess hard enough. So they decided that they had to build a bigger, better temple than before to gain the blessings from the goddess yet again. Unfortunately, big things cost big money. So it all took a small 150 years to get the construction of the improved temple started and yet another 120 years to finish it. But hey, at last it was built and stood proud for the farmers to enjoy and worship at. Though not for long. Because of this bumhole, who I can't say the name of because I would be publicly executed for it. This man was obsessed with fame. You could say he was the first TikToker. And just like all the others, he was really annoying. In the dead of night, the man whose name I once again can't say, snuck into the Temple of Artemis and started a fire that caused the entire temple to catch ablaze and ultimately burn down to the ground. Why did he do this? Because he wanted eternal fame, and as much as I hate to admit it, I guess he succeeded, cause we still talk about him to this day. Unfortunately for him though, he also succeeded in getting his head cut off. So yeah, here we are again with another destroyed temple and plenty of frustrated people who can't worship the goddess anymore. Guess we will build it again, am I right folks? And so did it. This time, even bigger, even better than the already good one, with beautiful statues hosted inside, which brought in people from far and wide. Like the Apostle John, who exorcised demons there, according to the Bible. This time, the temple actually stood for a bit longer. About 800 years in fact. Like all good things though, it had to come to an end. First in 268 AD, it got set ablaze by the Goths, because no reason actually. They just wanted to cause rampage throughout the Roman Empire like they always did. And for the final blow, in the year 408, a huge Christian mob came to wreck the place down because the emperor decided it was time to forcefully convert everyone to Christianity. It's almost sad. But hey, at least they recycled the wreckage to build the Hagia Sophia. Nowadays the ruins of the temple can still be visited in Turkey, where you can also visit the secret final 4th version of the temple. And I'll tell you what man, their shawarma is so good. Oh, alright, let's go. Where are we? One sec, I'll grab a light. Yeah, I don't think this is ancient Greece. My time machine must have malfunctioned and teleported us somewhere completely different. I'll take a look outside to figure out where we are. Why the hell did it throw us so far away from the machine? Oh no. Hey, not to panic, but you don't happen to know how to operate an M4 Sherman tank, do you?
Great. Okay, think logically. Surely there must be some kind of manual laying around here. Ah, speak of the devil. How to destroy a panzer tank with one well-aimed shot for dummies. Oh, well, couldn't come at a better time, right? Ugh. Before we get into how to survive this deadly situation, first a quick word from our sponsor, World of Tanks. I see what's happening here. Very clever, you guys. Alright, let's do this then. Do you like blowing things up? You do? Great. Then I have the perfect gaming experience for you. World of Tanks. World of Tanks is a free multiplayer online game where you can drive your own tank and fight massive battles in an 8v8 battle format. There are over 800 different tanks to choose from, including tanks that are destroyers, artillery, light, medium and heavy. Join over 100 million players fighting across 40 plus maps in historically accurate tanks by simply clicking the link in the description. And don't forget to use the code COMBAT to get your hands on 250,000 credits, a Cromwell B British premium tank, 3 rental tanks for your first 10 battles, and 7 days of premium. Existing players who haven't played for 30 plus days can also get 3 days of premium, exclusive camouflage, and a 7-day rental of a premium tank. So thanks for listening and install World of Tanks for free today. Make sure to... God, does this guy ever just get to the point? To escape your situation, simply click the big red button that says fire. What? Which button? Oh, and it didn't cross your mind to tell me that? Whatever, don't say anything. Not like you do anyway. Alright, time to show that Panzer what American power feels like. Fired? What do you mean I'm fired? And which smartass installs a button in a tank that fires you on the go? No wonder the tank was empty when we got in there. You know what? Forget it. This kit is taking way too long and we still got 4 wonders to cover, so enjoy the Cold War, losers! Yeah, so fun fact, this entire huge structure is not the thing we are here for. Why we are actually here is for the thing that is inside the building, the statue of Zeus. The story why the statue was made is actually kind of childish. The people in Athens hired this one dude called Phidias to make a statue of the goddess Athena, which the aliens, no, not those in Egypt, the Eleans, also known as the judges of the Olympic Games, were real jealous of. We can't have those filthy peasants east of us have a statue of a deity while we do not. So, after slipping Phidias a quick 50 gold bars, they had him also create a statue for the Olympians. Though theirs obviously had to be slightly bigger and also feature a slightly more important god than their competitors. The reason why this statue got on the list is not because it's so super impressive. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's huge and really portrays the wrath of the Father of Gods. But compared to the Great Pyramid of Giza, or the one I'll show you next, this wonder could be labeled as underwhelming. So then why is it on the list? Well, the statue portrayed more than just the king of the Greek gods. It's a symbol of the sheer awe and devotion that the ancient Greeks had for their gods. The statue of Zeus at Olympia was not merely a representation of a deity. It was a testament to the religious passion and cultural pride of the ancient people. Fancy, right? Even though the temple and the statue stood for hundreds of years, it too was destined to be slain by Father Time. Multiple earthquakes, a fire, and once again the Goths, because, you know, what else would they be doing with their spare time, caused the ancient wonder to turn into an archaeologist's wet dream. Stupid Goth girls, brr. Why can't they just leave us alone for one? You know, I watched a really fun movie the other day, where people could tell how much time they had left to live. It was so good, in fact, that I created these goggles that allow me to see that as well. For example, look over there. That is Mausolus. He's the governor of Caria, which is basically this place in nowadays Turkey. Keep a good eye on him, because in exactly 4.3 seconds, he is going to die. Geez, these glasses really are something, aren't they? Back to what we are here for. See that woman standing next to Mausolus' corpse? That is not only his sister, but also his wife. Yeah, very before Christ-ish from them, isn't it? Anyway, she is devastated by the loss of her brother/husband, and wants to make sure his burial is done flawlessly in honor of his wishes, which he made clear to her before he kicked the bucket.
His wish of final resting place, though, wasn't a simple grave next to a cherry blossom tree in his hometown or something. No. He wanted a massive tomb in the middle of Caria's capital city, Halicarnassus, to forever immortalize his greatness in our history. Spoiler alert, so she did. And Mausolus's widow and sister made sure to spare no expense. She hired the most skilled architects and artisans from Greece to work on this masterpiece of a building. The mausoleum was decorated with complex sculptures and stunning carvings, showcasing the talent of renowned artists that I could name, but you would forget anyway. What, you think you won't forget them? Here they are: Scopas, Bryaxis, Timotheus, and Leocharis. I sincerely hope you memorized them just now, because I will test you when we are done with our little adventure. Standing at a lot of meters, this wonder of the ancient world was a sight to behold. Its layers consisted of a base, iconic columns, a tiered pyramid, and a beautiful statue of Mausolus and Artemis riding a chariot on top. A perfect final resting place for a governor with a lot of money. Fun fact, this wonder is where the word mausoleum comes from. So, thank you, Mausolus. Very cool. As a change of pace, the mausoleum did not get destroyed by goth girls. And as a matter of fact, it survived, honestly, a lot. It survived Alexander the Great, aggressive pirates, even fires. But it couldn't survive our good old friend Mr. Earthquake, who decided to knock it down to the first level around the year 1100. Now, surprisingly, after all of that, the temple actually remained for quite some more time. Till the year 1494, in fact. That is just over 500 years ago, making it the second longest standing world wonder, with the Great Pyramid in first place, of course. The final blow done to the mausoleum wasn't done by an earthquake, but instead by a dozen holy knights who were terrified of the Ottoman Empire attacking their castle. So they decided to break whatever was left from the wonder apart and use those stones to reinforce their hideout. Now, if they managed to heroically fight the Ottomans off with an epic battle and important victory, I would be okay with them breaking the 1700 years old wonder apart. But no, they got absolutely destroyed. To be honest, what were they thinking? The Ottoman Empire was massive at that time, and they thought the 80 of them could stop their advance? Yeah, quite a boring one-sided siege that happened here. Wanna hear a story about an insane siege though? The Colossus of Rhodes. This massive 30-meters tall bronze and iron statue was made to celebrate a significant military victory that the people of Rhodes achieved and to praise the sun god Helios, who they believed had helped them win it. To keep it easy to follow, allow me to oversimplify what happened here in this conflict. After Alexander the Great conquered all of this territory, he decided to die. Understandable, we all have to do that one day. But he didn't appoint an heir that would inherit all of this territory. So instead, it was divided among his generals. And what do generals like to do? They like to wage wars amongst each other. One of those internal conflicts was between the Antigonid dynasty and the small independent city-state and island of Rhodes. Because Rhodes was a major center of commerce and trade in the Eastern Mediterranean, it was a massive money generator, which made it very interesting for Demetrius, the ruler of the Antigonid dynasty, so he decided that he wanted to take it. The Rhodians, anticipating the attack, fortified their defenses and sought alliances with states around them, including the Kingdom of Egypt. However, those alliances didn't stop the war from happening. And in the year 304 before Christ, Demetrius started the siege that would result in a beautiful bronze colossus. Even though the Rhodians were heavily outnumbered, because the city of Rhodes was well fortified and surrounded by hilly terrain, they managed to hold the Antigonids off for many months on end. But then, just like in a video game, there had to come a final boss. Meet the Taker of Cities. A massive siege tower designed by the great Demetrius himself to be used to finally take down the walls of Rhodes. The tower stood over 40 meters tall and 20 meters wide and housed a whopping 16 ballistas spread across its 7 floors. Not to mention, had a massive crew of over 3,400 soldiers in battle. But even this monstrous Tower of Death couldn't break the spirit nor walls of the Rhodians. And after finally receiving help from the allied Egyptians, the Rhodians managed to break free from the siege and ended their 1-year period of constant bombardment.
The Antigonid chaotic retreat resulted in almost all of their war equipment, including their hellish tower, to be left on the island. And what better thing to do with all that metal and bronze than to build a massive colossus of Rhodes' iconic god. This is by far my favorite ancient wonder. But it is also the shortest lived wonder, as only 56 years after it being built, it broke its ankles and collapsed onto the floor, where it remained as a tourist attraction for another 800 years. And yes, this wonder as well ended up being looted and stripped down. A little bit off topic, right? But why can't more cities build magnificent structures or massive statues of important figures? As a matter of fact, why is nothing nice being built nowadays? Everything we built has turned dull and repetitive for the sake of economic benefits. The people of Rhodes survived a massive year-long siege which ruined the economy and infrastructure of the island. And yet, they chose not to sell all of that war equipment and instead melted most of it down to create a huge statue to celebrate the Rhodian pride and victory. Culture is pretty cool, you know. You'll miss it someday. Welcome to the final seventh wonder of our time-traveling journey, the lighthouse at Alexandria. It's the youngest ancient world wonder of them all, as it was built in the year 280 BC, which also means if you were alive in this day and age, you would be able to visit all the wonders we covered before, just as you would be able to visit this one. And hell, even the World Trade Center is still here. No, I'm not making that joke, it's too cheap. So, picture this. A big coastal city with an even bigger and busier harbor. Ships with unimaginable wealth enter the city in masses to sell their goods and make even more money than they already have. It's a good life. At least, during bright clear summer days it is. During these stormy nights, it's a whole different story. In a day and age where not exactly everyone has a degree in sailing, it was quite frequent that ships ended up crashing into each other or onto shore due to their bad visibility. It also didn't help that the harbor of Alexandria wasn't exactly easy to get in and out to, though it was very easily defended from pirates. One day, the rich people of Alexandria were like, what if we built a lighthouse on that rock over there, to make sure merchants can get into our harbor easily, making it more attractive for them to come to our city in general. The design of the lighthouse can be split into 3 levels. A square base, followed by a cylindrical middle section, and as a cherry on top, a cylinder where the light will be emitted from. Such a huge 130 meters tall lighthouse obviously needed to also shine a huge amount of light. And because electricity wasn't going to be invented for another 2000 years, unless if you live close to the pyramids, they had to come up with a different but clever solution to generate that much light anyway. The solutions to this problem were mirrors, lenses and polished bronze, which all massively enhanced the light of the single wood-fueled flame at the top of the lighthouse. The light ended up being so bright in fact, that it was the brightest man-made light created at that time. And it helped hundreds, if not thousands of ships every day to navigate to the port of the city. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why did they go all out on this super expensive lighthouse that ended up costing roughly $100 million in nowadays money, if they could have also made a normal lighthouse and still would have achieved the goal of aiding the merchants to their city? Well, to show that they are a better mercantile city than their competitors, of course. Be honest with me, right? Where would you rather go? To a city with a big lighthouse and beautiful light? Or to a city with a small lighthouse with a pathetic normal amount of light? Which way, modern man? Exactly. Like moths, the merchants swarmed the city and lighthouse in masses, which made the Alexandrian elites even richer than they originally were. Impressive stuff. What was also impressive though, is for how long it stood for. Though there were many earthquakes that chipped down the wonder, the lighthouse at Alexandria ended up staying for a whopping 1500 years, till one day the final earthquake knocked the lighthouse down, and then everyone crashed their boats and died. That final thing I might have just made up. And thus we conclude our wonderful journey through time. Now, for the killer question that you've been dying to ask me. Do I think that all the ancient world wonders are better than the current 7 world wonders? No. The Great Wall of China, for example, is way more impressive than the statue of Zeus.
And with all but one of the ancient wonders destroyed, it makes sense to fill in those gaps with the new ones. But once again, why is the Pyramid of Giza not one of the 7? I call for another vote on what the new wonders of the world should be. Now, before I let you go, there's just one small thing left for us to do. Remember when I dared you to memorize the names of the 4 renowned artists who worked on the mausoleum? Well, here we are. What were their 4 names? Oh, you can't remember? They were Scopas, Bryaxis, Timotheus, and Leocaris. How could you possibly forget? I even told you to remember them. Surely you remember the name of the pharaoh that lays inside the Great Pyramid? Pharaoh Khufu? No, you don't either? Seriously, do you remember anything I told you? You know what? It doesn't matter. I cannot let you walk away knowing that time traveling is a real thing. Plus, your time is about to run out anyway. So thanks for joining me on my journey, and, well, truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
Imagine, if you will.
So you end up with this fairly normal place that usually has citizens and people living there, and then they get hit with a warp storm or they get stuck in a warp rift, at which point you've got all of the kind of real, tangible, like, world itself, like the physical universe, mixed with all the impossible nonsense that the warp brings. And fairly frequently, they stop being, like, bound by the laws of physics. You will have demon princes taking control of said world. Full wars will be fought between the 4 gods of chaos, like their followers, to see who gets control of said world, which, you know, is also incredibly bad for whoever happens to be living there at the time. So if you've just been minding your own business and your world gets caught in a warp rift, then you might suddenly find that what was previously quite a nice place to live is now massively overrun by all 4 gods' followers as they wage a massive, unending, bloody war to just make your life as miserable as, not even physically possible, as, like, miserable as physically impossible quite often.
Yeah, because it's...
As metaphorically possible.
But if your whole planet gets stuck in, like... Because it sounds like this is just like, planet, we accidentally shoved you through the warp. Wouldn't everybody kind of, like, die from that?
Define die, sir.
Well, like, when a ship goes into the warp to travel, like, if you're not protected by a Geller field, don't you just, like, melt?
Well, what depends on what the gods have in store for you.
It tends to be much worse than that.
So I know. Okay, so I know what you're thinking, DK. You're referencing the second Night Lord's book, where all the Red Corsairs on the outside of the ship they translate into the warp, and then warp waves just like tear them apart at a molecular level.
Yeah, and that one guy only survives because
Right, exactly. That one guy survives and turned into a possessed.
Well, yeah, because he was like literally possessed by Nurgle, right?
Well, that's the concept. Like, it's the warp. Who goddamn knows what's going to happen to you? You might just disintegrate. You might get turned into a giant mass. You might become 5. It's the warp, man.
Okay. I guess I figured like the warp was just like, yeah, you better not go in there unprotected because it's going to turn you inside out and play jump rope with your intestines while feeding them back to you or something.
I mean,
well, there is
that might happen too, but you know,
that too. That or you end up, staying in the warp for what feels like centuries and centuries, slowly starving to death, and then the ship somehow gets chucked out again, and it turns out that you've only been gone 30 seconds. All sorts of fun and incredibly not fun things can happen. But when it comes to an entire planet, there is actually an example of it. So there's a nice bit of information on a demon planet called Golia 7. Which technically I think is classed as a dead planet now, but for reasons that will become clear,
painfully obvious, I'm sure.
Yeah. So they're heading for the Feast of the Emperor's Ascension, and at noon on that day, there is an issue with the entire planet's skies where they become like blood red.
Oh, great.
3 days later, it starts raining blood. The planetary governor has no idea what's going on, tries to calm the population down, but of course the population is not going to calm down because it's literally raining blood on them.
Blood, yeah. It's Slayers, right?
Yep. There's a council meeting. They try and work out what's happening, and they realise that the world is basically heading directly into a warp storm, or at least a warp storm is like the path is passing across the world itself. So then they demand to know why the astropaths haven't said anything to them, because this is something that they could have done with, battening down the hatches on, getting things in place to stop the population from rioting and going insane.
Mm-hmm.
Or depending on how cowardly your planetary governor is, getting on a ship and leaving.
Abandoned ship. Yeah, I was going to say, if they knew earlier, they probably all would have just left.
But there was no warning of it, so they went to find the astropaths because, weirdly, they were not at the meeting itself, which they should be, and they did find them. They found
Their heads
them.
Exploded?
Oh, no, it's way worse than that. All the blood was drained from every orifice. It's very specific about that.
Ouch.
And their bodies were locked and, twisted in place, and they were still screaming. So they were not having a great time either. They weren't doing so well.
Yeah, they are
sometimes
not having a good time.
Sometimes people forget that, while Khorne might be blood, death, murder, Khorne still does, weird warp stuff that might feel like possession and magic. Things like that. Let's just drain all their blood.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, it's bad. Yes, watch her in the rain, Shy. So it starts out rough, but it does get worse, so it's okay. The Planetary Defense Force is mobilized. They try and, actually get this world defended from what could be an invasion when the warp storm hits. They don't really know what's coming. They just know that this is really, really bad. So they do fortifications. They just create miles and miles of siege works outside the major cities of the planet. And it is protected by literally millions and millions of soldiers. They have got over 100, I think it's 180 or 150 million soldiers on that world in the Planetary Defense Force, keeping it safe, in inverted commas. But nothing happens. It just continues to rain blood day after day. The soldiers dream of torture. They start to feel pain and suffering, and so they start abandoning their posts, and then they start having to mass execute deserters because they just start leaving and they don't want anything to do with it.
Fun.
That's not even the third week. By the time you get to the third week, you've got huge congregations of prophets and people proclaiming the end of the world, saying that the God Emperor has abandoned them and has damned them because they're all faithless. The people doing this were initially, it's okay, well, we need to leave these as much as we can, only send in police and Arbites to try and sort it out. But it was far too late for that. It then turned into just battles between essentially cultists that had started to rise up and the Planetary Defense Force, just constantly fighting. Then, because the soldiers heard about it, they started manning the, they started leaving the trenches, which were now full of blood because it was raining blood for 3 weeks, and just abandoning their posts. So all the defensive lines were just completely empty.
Yikes.
At which point, the warp storm finally actually hits the planet. There's lightning splitting the sky. There's nightmares that join form and just incorporate themselves into reality to start slaughtering things. A good number of the population are just driven mad instantly. Then the ones who go mad become almost gods amongst men. So what they think of becomes reality. And then as the warp storm properly engulfs the planet fully, hundreds of millions of people just started to butcher each other in some sort of blood-frenzied rage.
Oh. Wow.
and then the ground just falls apart underneath them. Fountains of gore sweep out. just taking everyone away, the dead, the dying, the still alive, and the last person on the planet to die just heard laughing before they were killed as their sanity was got rid of. And then there was nothing left on the world. It was just gone. It was dead.
Damn. I thought you were going to say the last person became a demon prince because they were strong enough to survive.
I mean, that would be a fair guess, but sheesh.
Would have been a better fate, I think.
Yeah, that's
definitely.
That's no Planet Hawaii, that's for sure.
But that's the kind of thing you get to look forward to if there's a warp storm engulfing your planet. So
holy jeez. I mean, the raining blood for 3 weeks was the good part. That was
that was the nice bit.
Calm before the storm, as it were. Yikes.
You know, it's kind of like, okay, so here's the thought process. Could they have actually even done anything?
There's no way, right?
Oh, almost certainly not. No.
Okay. I was like, they probably could have left. Like, this is planet-wide evacuation. And yeah, okay. What was the time frame? You said like 4 weeks?
Yeah, it was basically in the span of a month. It went from a normal world to a dead world that briefly became a demon world as it started reacting to the warp and the people living there.
Yeah, and they don't even understand like what chaos is most of the time, so this probably really took them off guard.
Oh yeah, for these people, like it was probably just, oh yeah, this is hell. Like we've died and gone to hell. We're just gonna suffer, and yeah, because most of the regular citizenry don't know anything about the warp and chaos and anything outside of their little planet aside from, oh boy, the Emperor's great.
And the people you need to try and get assistance, as Shice pointed out, they're either dead or so insane they can't actually use their abilities to do anything.
True.
To call for any sort of assistance.
The astropaths are still screaming about that whole being, locked into place and having all the blood from every orifice pour out of their body.
Would honestly
holiday, is it?
Probably be better that you didn't try to help him, though, because I feel like if you try to shake an astropath, like, wake up, we need you, he would just blow your head off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably best to leave the astropath alone.
It'd go bad. It would definitely go bad. Possibly for both of them, potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
But that could be classed as, like, a not too bad fate when it comes to Demon Worlds. That's one of the reasons I brought it up early, because it's horrific and everyone died.
But you're not alive to suffer, because in 40k there are fates way worse than death.
Yes.
Oh,
no. It could actually be worse than that. So sometimes there'll be occasions where Demon Worlds are like in real space for enough time that they can be visited by agents of the Imperium. So, like, Inquisitors might be able to like land a party or examine a world, and that's where, like, in universe, where a lot of the kind of Imperium knowledge of them comes from. So there are some worlds that are just an absolute like just a cauldron of fighting, where it's just each Chaos God has got followers who are attempting to take that world over for themselves, or maybe the world is taken over kind of on like a cycle. So it might be that for a while it's taken over by Nurgle, and so it has certain almost symptoms of being taken over by Nurgle, like kind of lush gardens that emit poison, where everyone on it is just permanently diseased or wasting away. But then it might be that somehow, either through war or through just influence, Khorne gains control of that world, at which point it's just one massive like gladiatorial combat sort of session going on.
Yeah, reflects the Chaos God that has control over it.
Yes, it's very dependent on which like facet of chaos currently has a hold over that world. So there's things like, Inquisitors getting groups together, being able to go and examine these worlds up close, of people being like hunted down by demons over terrain that just constantly changes. Issues with being attacked or, confronted with the deep nightmares or worst fears that people might have, seeing family and loved ones die, no natural law, so things like floating mountains just being a thing, or rivers of blood, or wine if it's a Slaanesh world. Loads of completely impossible and improbable instances that shouldn't be a thing where this planet is if it's gone back into real space for a bit, but it's still kind of affected by whatever entity has control over it. And yes, one of the example ones of just how completely, I guess, nonsensical Demon Worlds can be, is there is a world called Oliensis, which is a planet, except it's not fully a planet. It's in the Eye of Terror, and it's actually just a massive, morbidly obese guy in the fetal
it's the
position.
big dude. I've heard about this a million times, but I've never actually seen it.
Wait, it's not actually a planet. It's just like a massive dude.
Yeah, it's just a big obese man who is in a fetal position and is the size of a planet, and noise marines live in his paws.
Yeah, I was about to say this is a Slaanesh coded planet if I've ever seen one.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Well, I guess
to the max, right?
It could be Nurgle, I suppose, but
Yeah, it could be. Well, if it was shooting out boils and disease and burping rot, yeah, it could be. Shy said it's your mom, Bricky. Are you gonna let me say that about your mom?
She just said it's your mom. There are 3 separate people here that comment could have gone towards.
Yeah, but I was assuming she was talking to you because my mom is a saint.
And you're telling me that my mom isn't?
No, I'm just assuming that Shy's being very mean to you. So, yeah.
There was an attempt. There was just for a moment a temptation to say that mine's no longer with us, but that would be a lie. So I decided not to.
That's okay.
It's not just Oliensis though, because Oliensis is it's really weird, really creepy. Just a guy floating in space, but is also a planet. People living in the pores itself. It's not the only one.
How did that happen exactly? Just weird,
Slaanesh.
warpy, chaos Slaanesh stuff turned a dude into a... do you need a special dude for that? Or is it just like, oh yeah, it's just some dude we can see forever?
Make it sound like you need one specifically that can be inflated to the right size.
He's special, all right.
Where do you buy that from?
Like, I know Chaos and the Warp don't really have any, like, tangible rules or laws. Like, physics go right out the window. But, like, there's no, like, ritual or anything. It's just Slaanesh is like, yeah, this person, they just, like...
Okay, I like to think the concept that this is the morbidly obese person, but, like, their head has stayed the same size. So it's somewhere on the planet, this tiny lump with the face. Just a normal size head. And the rest of them has just been increased. I mean, there is some fetish happening here.
You know in old-timey cartoons where you've got the tire pump and they put it in like the guy's mouth and they keep pumping it and he turns into a balloon? I like to believe that that's how Slaanesh does it.
Now I'm on board. I'm on board with that idea.
Like
yeah,
the old-timey cartoon one where they just keep inflating and then,
Yeah,
see,
that works for me.
I'm imagining, like, much like how a demon prince is, you do something crazy good for chaos and then you become a demon prince and then they reward you. I imagine this guy was like grade A worker, employee of the year, years over, He was just this one guy that Slush was like, you know what, man? Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Like he single-handedly took down a craft world or something.
I'm not sure how this is a reward.
I feel like this isn't a reward. I feel like this is a punishment, isn't it?
It's hard to tell.
With Slaanesh, it's always hard to tell what's a punishment and what's a reward, right?
There's that.
I think with all of them, that's kind of true, isn't it?
True,
it's like,
yeah. But with Slaanesh especially, because who knows what a Slaanesh worshiper would think was punishment or reward.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fair.
to go back a second, I remember this because this was a relic in 9th edition 40k called the Endless Grin. It is a fleshy mask of the still living, flayed face of a man who begs Slaanesh to fulfill his wish to live forever. The Dark Prince was only too pleased to oblige, gifting the unfortunate soul immortality, but also forcing to present his face to the Chaos Lord Shikse. After murdering the supplicant, Shikse wore the face as a prized reminder of the occasion for several centuries. The Endless Grin has since exchanged hands many times, but the potency of its anguish has never diminished.
Chaos.
Jesus.
So, whether it's a blessing or a curse is a great question.
Yeah.
Warp
You just never
shenanigans.
know. Yep.
It's just like chaos.
Chaos shenanigans. Yep.
Lovable scamps. You ask for one thing, you sort of get it in a horrific way. Yay.
the old monkey paw, right? Shai has a better story. He was some starving peasant on a hive world, and he wished he would be as fat as a planetary governor, and Slaanesh rewarded him with endless stomach, and he ate entire population of his planet and became planet-sized. Actually, I don't hate that explanation.
I quite like
think
that.
that's actually a...
That's good.
That's a fair explanation. I
Yeah.
like that one. Yeah.
That sounds extremely like that would be in a Slaanesh Codex, 100%.
Yeah, that sounds
definitely.
very similar to what happened to the Endless Smile, right? He was like, "Oh boy, I want to live forever," and it's like, "Well, here's your wish." Chuckle, chuckle.
So what other demon worlds do you got here? Because I know of 2 specifically, actually 3.
There's a bunch. The thing is, he's not the only like big lad in space. So when Shai mentioned him,
He's not the only big lad in space.
he's not the only one. There's also, I maybe could have phrased that a bit more.
A tad
big
bit.
lad in space. There's also one called Pluvioris, which is kind of similar in that it's another kind of gigantic person floating around. However, this one doesn't have noise marines living in the pores. This one has people living on its surface. So he still has people actually living on him. And when Pluvioris dreams, it like writhes around in pleasure and pain. And the people who live on the surface are people who are effectively being punished for like only chasing their dreams. So they then end up living on this planet that's actually, a big lad in space. And whilst they're there, they've been cursed to live there. And while they're there, their imaginations are kind of forced to run wild. And every time they imagine like a new fear or something that they are like horribly afraid of, that thing is birthed by the planet, crawls out of the nearest pore to the person who imagined the awful thing, and then goes and murders them.
Oh,
It's just the Stephen King It planet.
Pretty
yeah,
much.
you're right. Yeah, that is basically Stephen King's It, the planet.
They don't
Yeah,
even get to die at the end of it because they crawl out of his mouth next night. So they get murdered by the thing they're scared of. Then they are themselves brought back to life to get murdered by a new thing that they're scared of all over again.
Oh, wow, really? So even if they get killed on this planet, they just get rebirthed just so they can endlessly die again to stuff that they're afraid of?
Yes.
Would this be a Tzeentchian or a Slaaneshian coded planet? It feels Tzeentchian.
For me, it feels Tzeentchian, yeah. There's a few that are like not 100% on kind of which god it's currently controlled by. That is one of the ones where I wasn't 100% sure whilst I was looking at these. I just know that it was absolutely grim. I was just like, oh dear God, that's
and
awful.
People are sent to live on this planet as a punishment for like doing something bad or whatever, or just because, haha, this will be funny.
They've spent their entire lives chasing their dreams, but they have a lack of faith, which is quite a nebulous sort of description. It's from a White Dwarf article, from a while ago, I think. It was White Dwarf 282, which was quite a while.
Yeah, because I was going to say, there's no way you would choose to live on this planet or on this person.
So, no, I think none of them do.
Punishment. Yeah.
I think none of them do. As an example, just a place that you would never, ever want to be in any way, shape, or form. There is, I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm going to put it in.
Okay.
So that I'm going to give it a go.
All right.
Then you tell me, why is it put that as an image? You tell me if you think I've got this right. Ygarnak. Ygarnak?
You know what I would say?
I think
I'd say Yarnak.
I think the H is silent. I'd say Ygarnik.
I would have gone Yarnak.
Ygarlic.
The garlic planet.
The garlic
That's
planet.
Close enough.
Yaggernak.
I just quite like Yaggernak.
Why did you sound like an anime character, like learning something new? It's like, no way, Yaganak.
Yeah, that's like the way the dub says it. Like the anime's like Yarnak, and then the dub's like Yaggernak. You know? Yeah.
Anyway, so what is this planet? Does it shit flies or something?
It's not. It's relatively it's relatively clean because it's not technically a world. It's a vast collection of like cages that are made from bronze bars that are permanently scorching hot, and inside every cage is a person. And that person is there because they've drunk someone else's blood, and if they were witnessed doing that by one of the Chaos Gods, they get to stay in one of the burning cages forever. And the only way that they can stop it from burning them is to put their own blood all over the bars.
Oh, so this is just the
planet.
The Brazen Bull.
It is the Brazen Bull, but in like actual planet size.
Some brazen bullshit.
That's strange because you'd think a Chaos God would not care if someone was just drinking blood.
Also, it is kind of not a very Korn thing to like torment these people. That's not always like his shtick. Though I guess if he's just trying to get more blood.
Well, that's But yeah, that's weird. It doesn't seem like most Chaos Gods would give a goddamn if they found one of their followers drinking blood. That seems like a very normal, chaosy thing to do.
Then again, it's also very chaos to encourage a thing and then just not reward you for it, or
and
to
then
openly
punish you
go
for said thing.
Yeah. On the other hand, no. Like that feels very very
fair.
chaos.
Fair. Yeah, you're right. What was I thinking? I keep thinking there are laws and rules. It's chaos in the warp. Nope. All that shit is out the window. It's anybody's ball game. The rules change. The points are made up, and they don't matter.
The points change. The rules don't. There's no rules. The points change, and the people don't matter. Is probably the.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, for some reason, I keep thinking there's some set of bylaws in chaos. There's not.
They don't.
I like Husla.
They're in it. They're in it for shits and giggles, and that's what they're going to go for every single time.
Speaking of shit, you got a Nurgle planet for us? We've done some good, like, of the other gods.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's. let me find it because there's a great Nurgle
so
planet.
Gross, isn't it? This is gonna be awful. This is gonna be like a literal planet that's just a floating hunk of shit or something.
I don't know why you'd assume that. So we can. I mean, there is Plague Planet, which is hands down the least imaginatively named demon world, which
probably
is of course
the most accurately descriptive.
Oh well, it is where Mortarion lives. So it's the home world of the Death Guard, and it is absolutely full of beastmen for a start, but like diseased beastmen that are covered in flies, and they absolutely love it. They love being diseased and covered in flies, and they have like full on kind of, yeah, well, I think you'll find I've got 3 more diseases than you have. That sort of attitude to them. Other than that, it's actually not that crazy compared to some of them.
Yeah, that sounds like Nurgle paradise. Like, if you have been corrupted by Nurgle, that sounds like paradise. It's like, oh yeah, we are just rotting in our own filth. We're covered in disease, and we love it because we're Nurgle. And why wouldn't we love it? And hooray! At least, you know, we're not in bars that are tormenting us forever. We'd love to bathe in our own shit. So yeah, if you're Nurgle, that sounds like Planet Hawaii.
I mean, they do have Nurgle. Another Nurgle demon world does have a ring of people dancing around the equator. So there's like permanently a massive chain of humans that just sings and dances the whole time, praising Nurgle as they circle the planet, and as they go round and round, they get Nurgle's rot, which causes them to then turn into Plaguebearer demons, at which point the Plaguebearer then leaves to go and join Nurgle, and new humans take their place. Which, it sounds really jolly. Like, it genuinely sounds like they're having a whale of a time.
By comparison to what we've already heard, I'll take that over, infinite death at the thing that you're most scared of for all eternity, or being in basically a brazen bull.
I mean, it is kind of Nurgle's thing, though, right? He's very jolly. I always remember that one story of I think it was Vrax or maybe the other one, where a great unclean one would run up and then just like projectile vomit into a crater left by artillery shells, and all the Nurglings would be like, "Yay, pool!" and then start like playing in it.
Oh yeah, a kiddie pool of vomit, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like that's just Nurgle. That's just what he's about.
They're just having a great time. There is Anathrax as well, another Nurgle planet. That's a bit more weird, to be fair, because there's loads of like mushrooms and fungus all over the planet that are actually heads with kind of puffy eyes, and they just permanently cough and sneeze mucus all over the planet. And anyone who touches it immediately gets corrupted.
Ew.
So land some Space Marines on there, and if they touch it, they will most likely be corrupted and turned into a band of Chaos Space Marines.
Well, that sucks, but still, not as bad as all that other stuff.
It's not. Like, I really feel like Nurgle, when it comes to Demon Worlds, it's not the worst. There are definitely worst ones to be on. Oh yeah, and the disease factories of the Plague Planet. So there's just literal factories making diseases, sprawling abominations of gurgling pipes, bubbling vats, belching smokestacks, and rusted cages cramming with test subjects and living ingredients.
Besides this damn even Plague Planet has, yeah. Bezos is really expanding. Wow.
Who knew he was a fan of Nurgle all along?
Who knew? I always thought it was Slaanesh with all that excess.
Again, it's still not the worst. I mean, there's a few that are just absolutely horrendous. Ikoria is another one. Ikoria is an interesting one because it doesn't rely on, like, out-and-out torture. There's still a bit of torture going on. It's still not great if you're a human, but Ikoria is made of glass and bone, and there are forests that are just covered in humans that have sold their souls to try and get, like, rich. So if they've kind of chased fortune at the expense of everything else, then they are kind of cursed to end up hanging in these glassed forests. And every 999 days, one of them is returned to their normal life as if nothing had ever happened. However, they do remember their time on the demon world of Ikoria, and so eventually, usually in a matter of days, they go insane, which the demon prince who rules it finds really, really funny, and that's literally the only reason that he does it.
Because they can go free, and it's like, oh, hooray, I'm free. But their time on Ikoria just makes them go absolutely stir crazy, and they die regardless.
Yes, yeah. It's all about the false hope, and it's all about the idea to the rest of the captives on the demon world that one day I could be free. But then, as soon as you're freed, you've got at least 999 days of agonizing torture just still in your memory.
I imagine the Demon Prince is like in this really big, like lazy boy recliner with like a nightcap and a thing of coffee, and he's just like watching the person who gets saved, and they slowly start screaming, and he just spits out his mashed potatoes like.
So you said Ikoria is made of glass and bone?
Yep.
Is there a picture of that? Because that sounds like it'd be a dope looking planet.
I couldn't find one, but it does sound like one of the coolest ones.
Yeah, that sounds like it'd be a rockin' looking planet.
It also doesn't help that it's also a type of moth, which sort of interferes with Google image search results a little bit.
I said it's like her niece. All right, Grandma, back to bed.
I have glass bones and paper skin.
White dwarf and stuff, so...
Yeah, God, that sounds like it'd be such a cool looking planet. Oh, well.
There is a nicer one that I'll bring up in a moment, but I think we're best to get one of the other worst ones out of the way first. Okay. So there's a lot on this demon world. Well, on a character related to the demon world. So there is a demon prince called Gargachuloth, which is
what a cool name.
it's quite the name. Tzeentchian demon prince, or is it a thingy of change? A thingy of change. You know what I mean? One of those.
Is that the technical term too?
Greater demon, sorry, not demon prince. Yeah, it's a technical term, a thingy of change.
The thingy of change, yeah. It's my favorite.
Yeah, the named one is the thingies of change. It has two heads.
Mm-hmm. That's how you tell the difference. That's the way.
That's the have way the two heads. Yeah, exactly. Good call, Bricky.
Oh, it's been a long day. Right. So, effectively, this greater demon of Tzeentch, Gargachuloth, I love saying that.
That's a great name.
It's a great name. Ended up claiming a world called Corian 9. And on that world, Gargachuloth, he did something fairly hardcore, even by the standards of other demon worlds and 40k as a whole. Kind of had risen up a lot of cultists and prophets and the like, and they had been venerating like one of the incarnations of Gargachuloth and, you know, singing his praises, trying to draw more people in to worship Gargachuloth. Mm-hmm. And they wanted reward for this. They thought their reward, at least, would be eternal life, because that's, you know, something of a trend in all of this.
Silly boys.
It's never a good idea, is it? Mm-mm. And Gargachuloth is a greater thingy of his word, and gave them eternal life by creating just impossible to count so many torture racks and crosses on which the followers were crucified and kept alive pretty much permanently.
Oh.
So they were all hung up, they were screaming, and a nice little kind of indication as to just how grim the whole thing is. Like the blood from their torture made the kind of space between real space and the warp thin, and eventually the Inquisition arrived to do something about Gargachuloth because he was becoming quite a problem.
Yeah.
And when they arrived in orbit around the planet, the screaming of the crucified people was so loud that they could hear it through their ships in orbit.
Oh wow. That's a lot.
It's
at that
bad.
point, were they just like, you know what? Nope.
We're just gonna leave. We'll leave them to it. It's fine.
Yeah, Shai was like, I'm turning the ship around. It's like, yeah, you know what? We can hear their screams through the hull. nope. This planet is forfeit. Exterminatus, and let's get the fuck out of here.
That's definitely a we're leaving moment, right? Of all
Oh,
We're
hell
leaving.
Yeah. We're
Yeah.
leaving. Mm-hmm. Sure.
I mean,
Did they actually do anything about it, or did they actually just like, nope, fuck this shit, I'm out?
Oh, there was Grey Knights involved. They sorted it out. They
Okay.
sorted it out. Technically, it's now a dead world, not a demon world. So you can
okay,
gather from that
gotcha.
it went okay.
Yeah. Now it's just a burn mark.
I mean, all the people on it, they didn't make it, but the
I'm
problem
sure they're
as a whole.
pretty happy about that, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
when they're... yeah. The people didn't make it. Really? The eternal crucified guys didn't make it? No, tell me more.
They were fine with it in the end, though. So
Yeah, I'm sure,
turns
I'm
out
sure.
real change of heart about the whole living
Eternal
forever when
life
it's
thing,
presented
yeah.
in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So there is also Kallax, so that's Fulgrim's world, which is it's named after the city on Chemos that Fulgrim was from, and that one actually sounds like a great place to be, kind of, because it's a pleasure planet, and it's all about the unending pleasure, except it is known as the Gardens of Hell. So you could argue that that's, a little bit worrying on the
Yeah.
face of it. It's also described as being not a real planet, and instead it's the shadow of a planet being cast on the light of a dying sun, which sounds hardcore and even more impossible than most chaos-based warp nonsense to me. I
Yeah,
can't even,
I-
I don't know what that is, but it
Yeah,
sounds
I was gonna
cool.
say you said a bunch of words that I didn't quite like. I know what these words mean, but when you put them together, it's like what did you just say?
I think it's
But
a
it's
shadow
chaos.
of a planet.
Like it doesn't need to make sense, right? There's
It's
no
true.
laws.
It's
We've
true.
been over this. There's no laws. Nothing applies. Physics right out the window. There's
Yep.
nothing off limits.
Yeah, just do what you like. It's chaos. Who cares?
It's a shadow cast on real space that you can live on. That's a sort of pleasure world. Okay.
Hey, Fulgrim, maybe like, hey, man, I've come to you from the future, and like, I'm your bro. Don't pick up that sword. You're not gonna like what happens.
Just leave it there. You don't need
just
another
don't
sword. You've
touch
got a
it.
perfectly
Yeah,
good
yeah.
one.
Yeah, you're like a Primarch. You are completely okay with just not picking up the sword.
Sound advice from future Fulgrim.
Oh yeah, Fulgrim now spends most of his time recreating the old battles that unified his homeworld, fights them repeatedly, attempting different strategies in search of the perfect victory to rewrite his history. Sometimes he even allows the enemy to win. Just,
Wow.
for a nice change. It's
Yeah,
a Sunday.
of course.
Which is ironic because seeking that kind of level of perfection is basically just what Slanesh wants anyway. So
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, very much falling into the same traps all over again, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
But on that world, on Kallax, there is a couple of nice little details. So constantly changing because it's not really a real world; it's a shadow on a sun or something. So might have oceans of blood, might have oceans of specifically pomegranate juice. So that's one day you could go for a nice drink by the beach and it'll be awful. The next day, really tasty. Also, if you are a pilgrim and you end up there because you want to worship Fulgrim / Slanesh, if you stop dancing, then you'll be torn apart by demons. So, just a note, if you don't like dancing, don't go.
I thought you were going to say if you stop dancing, like you'd fall through the shadow and just land into the boiling sun or something, and you just boil alive. And,
That actually sounds really cool.
right? Like, in order to be on the shadow that's cast over the sun, you have to dance and be merry, and if you stop, foomp, you just right into the star.
if I'm not mistaken, there's actually a Slanesh demon known as the Mask of Slanesh that Slanesh has forced to never-endingly dance for all eternity.
That sounds
Yes.
super familiar.
Yeah, that's an AOS thing, isn't it? The Mask of Slanesh, or is that?
I think
No,
you can run it in
character.
both, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they I don't know why that happened to them. Let's look that up. The
I'll
so
tell you
so
what.
it's mask as an MASQUE.
Yes.
The Mask of Slanesh was once a demonette who was held in the greatest esteem by Slaanesh. She danced for joy and joy performance and et cetera, et cetera. Let's see. I don't know. I give up.
It was so quick. It was so quick. Oh.
It's long. I thought this was going to be like a 1-paragraph explanation one, but like, it was longer than I thought it was, and I'm like, I'm still in this hotel.
For whatever reason you don't want to leave that in, Shai, please at least include it as a blooper. That would be just great. I give up. Whatever. This is too many lines to read. Nope.
I've got to stop taking like sips of water at the wrong moment. The number of times I've nearly died. That one really.
Almost got you.
Really hit me. Oh, God.
Shai says she has an explanation, but she's currently typing it, so we need to fill some dead time.
I think she basically was like mocked her a little bit. Oh, okay, here it is. Slaanesh was in a bad mood, and the mask wanted to improve their mood with a dance. And Slaanesh was like, "You are mocking me by Fortnite dancing on my depression. Dance forever."
Okay,
no,
is that real?
Yep,
well,
that's about right.
The Fortnite dancing.
As they watched the demonette dance her faultless dance, Slaanesh saw only a barbed jest at their expense, a subtle mockery aimed at their wounded pride. So bear no more and flew into a rage and laid a curse to condemn them to dance without eternity, unable to rest their limbs or take the merest pause.
Wow.
Jesus. Yep.
So
I mean, there's being in a bad mood, and then there's that, isn't there? That's. I would argue that something of an overreaction.
It's like when the king, like the jester, is not doing a good enough job, and the king is like, off with their head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, is that really an overreaction for Slaanesh?
There's a bit of a parallel there with Fulgrim trying to do some sculpture and showing it to the really good sculpture guy who says, "Oh, it's too good. There aren't any flaws," and Fulgrim gets all sulky about it and decides that he doesn't like him anymore.
The really good sculpture guy, huh?
I forget his name.
Really knocking it out the park with these.
Was that the worst? Like,
I was gonna say you could have just said he went to the really good sculptor, but
you're referring to the part in Fulgrim, the book, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that bit. Oh yeah, sculptor. I forgot the name of the. Oh dear. Oh no.
Yes, the really good.
Bad.
I need to find me a really good sculpture guy that he might sculpt me a sculpture.
Even by my standards, I feel like not even the technical terms, just knowing English has not been great, which is a real shame because it's the only language that I can speak. So that's rough. That's really rough. Okay. This technically, we're going to do something kind of nice. We're going to talk about something that is, it's still technically kind of Demon World-esque. It's more of a demon cluster. So there is something called the Rose Cluster, which was created by a greater demon of Tzeentch. And it's called the Rose Cluster because it is in the shape of a rose, like petals and everything. So suns, planets, all of it is organized into the shape of a rose. It's also pink. Just a nice colour of pink. And it's not just the cluster that is in the shape of a rose. Zooming into the cluster and looking at stars, looking at planets, every single star and every single planet is also in the shape of a rose. So an entire section of space with multiple stars, a ton of planets, tens of thousands, possibly, given that it's a full cluster, all made to look like a lovely pink rose, and everything inside is also made to look like a lovely pink rose. And I don't know what life is like on those planets, or even if there is any, but just from the outside, it might be the nicest thing that any demon of any chaos god has ever done.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like it's kind of Rockstar. That actually sounds like it's kind of a neat little cluster to be just like this, galactic rose. That sounds great, but a part of me's worried because if it's even like all like pink hued, I'm like, well, how do you get that hue? That's probably a lot of blood.
Immediately goes to.
Probably. I mean, it's a chaos thing, right? Like,
to be fair,
Demon World.
yeah. I'll give you that. I mean, given how awful so many of them are, you kind of have to assume that probably something horrible's happened
blood.
there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Tzeentch, so it's. I mean, it could just be that everyone on there is like every person living in that cluster is also been turned into some sort of sentient rose, which is not the worst, but also probably very boring.
Yeah. You're not thinking Tzeentchian enough. It's pink to make you think that it's blood, but then when you find out it's not blood, you worry it's Slaanesh, but then it's not Slaanesh, and Tzeentch just made it pink because he thinks it's funny.
Fair enough. I mean, that's some Tzeentchian mind games, so,
It's just
there's actually a Rosetta Nebula in real life, which actually is quite a beautiful phenomenon.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
You know what's a really fun demon world that I like a lot? Wormwood. Wormwood. Yeah, it's what Vashtor turned Caliban into.
Oh.
Yeah, Vashtor took Caliban, turned it into a gigantic forest of demon gears and a various other like copper wiring and stuff, and just brought it back and was like, eat shit, John.
Destined for oblivion. I weep for the departed. It too shall fall.
Conflict is pitiless. Show no mercy.
I weep for the departed. It too shall fall.
Beneath the waters lies an endless abyss.
Again.
Answer me.
I weep for the departed. It too shall fall.
Here is thunder.
Beneath the waters lies an endless abyss.
The test. 0 points. Knowledge, the measure of truth and falsehood.
I weep for the departed. It too shall fall.
Conflict is pitiless. Show no mercy. Answer me. 0 points.
Time to suffer.
Is that it?
Beneath watchful. Always. Upgrade configured. Infallible. Burn away.
And it's great.
The actual quote, verbatim. Eat shit, Johnson. Yeah.
That was what was written on the note he sent to him afterwards. It was
Yeah, a
just,
little
it was
post-it
just
note.
that. Yeah.
It's funny because Vashtor is such like a melodical, mechanical kind of person, but he's not like a Be'lakor who actually would, I feel like, canonically say "eat shit, Johnson." But he's still a bit of a sassy man. He doesn't like these things.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's a demon world technically. Giant world of gears and forests of demon engines.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
And Vashtor made it. Yeah.
You did not hear me drop my phone.
I actually didn't.
No,
Oh,
no
thank
one
God.
did.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was going
thank
to say,
God.
if you hadn't said it, I wouldn't have known, but now we're all judging you because you said it.
The microphone isn't great. I didn't know.
Yeah, well, now I know you dropped it, and now I'm judging you harshly for being so goddamn clumsy.
If we're going to cut that out, can we cut out all the bits where I don't know what words are? Is that okay? Or would that be
No.
too much content? Cut.
Oh my god, Yugi Yagarnak.
Hey, you! We're getting the Yarnak!
How
Joey
is it
Wheeler, my
better on
beloved.
that than the word sculptor? Like, what happened? Anyway, so there
You
are.
can't cut out 95% of the podcast. Fair play, Shy. Fair play.
I can't even argue with it because it's true.
Don't worry, Kirioth. No one will notice that you got all that stuff wrong because I am the canonically dumb one. So everybody will concentrate on how stupid I am, and you'll be clear. Don't worry. You'll clear the allegations.
I'll just have to.
Man is not escaping the allegations.
No. The next one is going to be. I'm only going to have scripted responses, and that's going to be it.
Then we're not inviting you back, man. This is the gold of the podcast. Like, come on.
We're gonna pull an AI generated response from your voice here.
I was going to say, if you're not having me back on, we can't have this as the last one. We can't have the one where I can't talk. That's the worst way to go out. That's my personal demon world. We can't be doing that.
So you have to come back. You have to keep coming back. You're stuck here. This is actually your demon world because you have to keep.
That feels like the best
this is your
possible place to
Stephen
end it,
King. This is the
This is
Stephen
my
King
demon
planet
world.
you have to live on. Yeah. So.
Oh God, you need to keep coming back until you get an episode right, but that never happens.
You just keep getting rebirthed.
I keep crawling out of the
Out of
the
the
big
mouth,
lad in
yeah.
Space's mouth.
Little did you know that you were actually on. What was the dude's name again?
The obese man.
Polarvia or something or
Pluvioris, that's it.
Pulvioris. There you go. You remember that, but Sculptor?
The idea of noise marines living in the man's pores just fucking throws me off.
Yeah, that's
Like-
so crazy.
It's
When you think about how each individual pore is like the size of probably like a city, it's just so weird.
Gross, yeah.
yeah. Also,
What
does
happens
he
when
sweat?
that dude sweats? Yeah,
Yeah.
yay! Brain link! We share
Oh,
a brain
no.
cell! Wow, look at
He's
us!
he's so excited.
I'm not the only dumb one! Yes!
As if we hadn't established that like 35 minutes ago.
Fair enough. Yeah, what happens
At
when
least.
he sweats? Or like, what happens if he bumps into something and he has to, like, he bleeds or something, Or
I mean, the armor's got to be sealed against atmosphere. So maybe do they just relax in the pore like it's a giant hot tub? Is that
What
what
even
happens?
is atmosphere on a booth like or like on like a world
what
like that?
does it
That's
even
so-
have atmosphere?
I mean, it's the warp. It's probably like air conditioned. They just decide what they want it to be, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they're living on an obese guy the size
true.
of a planet. I don't think we need to be worrying about specifically
Oh,
what sort
man.
of atmosphere there is.
See,
Yeah, the
I-
obese guy planet. I wonder how the physics of the atmosphere work on it.
Yeah, the GW guy that wrote this is just like listening to this and is like, I wonder how atmosphere works. And he's like smashing his face into the desk right now. Like, that's not the point.
That's not the point, you dipshits.
Having to order a new monitor from like the procurement department because he's punched it repeatedly.
Yeah. Peak Warhammer discussion. How does Fat Man in Space atmosphere? Anyway, what else? Do we have anything else? Is there more?
We could easily be here for like another hour. There are a good number of demon planets, but I feel like what's the atmosphere on the sweating obese man is the best place to stop.
Fair play.
What do you think happens when he has like a rumbly in his tummy? Is it just like catastrophic earthquakes across the entire planet?
A rumbly in his tummy.
Do you think
that
like
dude sentient even? Like, or is he just like constantly asleep? Like, what even is this guy? What is this guy?
What is the core of the question? What even is this guy?
What is this guy? What is he?
Do you think if he like goes through a warp storm, it's like his shower? It's like
cleansing. Does he
Yes.
eat? Like, what does he eat? Does he eat? Like, if he gets a rumbly in his tumbly, is it because he ate something bad? Like,
wait a minute. We're not asking the right questions here. What if the Tyranids invade this?
Oh, the biomass they could get from big guy in space.
They just like, can you just imagine? I feel like the dude would just get eaten alive by like 1 million Bio-Titan ships.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they'd be like,
a feast.
They'd be like tiny little like piranhas, like chomping on his love handles.
That oh god.
And then he would scream.
The wound and the blood that just flows out of that. Ugh.
But he would scream in pain, but because his head is the size of a normal head on the surface, it'd just be this very far away in the background.
It's like a squeak. Oh my god, please end the episode.
And curiosity, is there anything else, or should we call it?
That's I don't know how to recover from that. I feel like that's the point.
This has been
excellent.
This has been everything I always want from a Kirioth episode.
I just don't know whether that's a good thing or not anymore.
I just
usually hurts after Kirioth episodes, and I love that.
I just love the ingenuity, you know? It's like, you know, when we read Lion Son of the Forest and they had a giant moon of all the bones of the planet's population orbiting it. And it's just like, what a great, like, wow, that's diabolical. Good job, writers. And I'm thinking the same thing here. The Brazen Bull planet.
Yeah.
Here is your Employee of the Month placard. Here are some vouchers for therapy. Well done. We'll see you next week.
Is there a reason why all of the Sir Mr. Workshop employees subsector 5 number 14, is there a reason why all of the civilians on your demon planet were the names of your close family members?
No.
Here is you know, we offer therapy in our health insurance plan.
This is my therapy.
You cannot simply call a great unclean one dad. You need to go back and do something about this. You can't publish that.
Men will do literally anything besides go to therapy.
You cannot call this great unclean one dad.
What, is there a reason you're modeling your great unclean one instead of the plague flail to have a belt and be hitting this plague bearer beneath him?
Oh god, all right. Let's exit stage right.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
I'll see you next week.
Attention, Helldivers. Please direct your attention to the nearest monitor for this mandatory broadcast incoming from Super Earth.
We heroes bring peace, manage democracy. We keep the galaxy safe. All evil impeached. I fear no god or beast. All heroes wear capes. On every planet, our bombs bringing hope. These bullets are balance on casting my foe. Let's fucking die. Into hell we dive. Democracy arrives to whatever freedom requires. Say farewell and try. Super Earth will never die. We are the Helldivers. Those villains, they need a taste of liberty. I think it's time to get lost. Join up with me. I'm sure that we will be perfectly safe, so we extract. On every planet, our bombs bringing hope. These bullets are balance on casting my foe. Let's fucking die. Into hell we dive. Democracy arrives to whatever freedom requires. Say farewell and try. Super Earth will never die. We are the Helldivers. Into hell we dive. Democracy arrives to whatever freedom requires. Say farewell and try. Super Earth will never die. We are the Helldivers. Fuck. Oh yeah.
Support Managed Democracy. Buy a t-shirt.
At the fall of Malevolent Creed, we were there to protect the weak. And into robot hell we dive. We were never admit defeat. Though the battle was fucking bleak. Forever freedom will survive. Through the fall of Malevolent Creed. not yet lost. Tomorrow to the creek, we're coming back. We survivors raise the glass, we know the cost. For peace, we will go on the attack. Yeah, we dive down to the planet side. Every block will burn in the name of truth and liberty. At the falls of a level-up creek, we were there to protect the weak. And into Roma hell we dive. We were never admit defeat. For the battle was lodging bleak. Forever freedom will survive. Through the fall of a level-up creek. At the falls of a level-up creek, we were there to protect the weak. And into Roma hell we dive. We were never admit defeat. For the battle was lodging bleak. Forever freedom will survive. At the fall of a level-up At the fall of a level-up creek.
Okay, normally we put a little sponsor plug right here. This is where I mention it in passing, so you're not surprised when it comes up later. But this time is very different. Our sponsor for this video isn't trying to sell you anything at all. Not even sort of. They're a non-profit organization called 80,000 Hours, and their entire mission is to help you find the most meaningful, most fulfilling career you possibly can. They've done loads of research for you. They've made guides, podcasts, job listings, everything you could want, all entirely for free, because they believe that when people are doing things that actually matter to them, things that make a real difference in the world becomes a better place far faster. It's still kind of hard to wrap my head around the fact that they're literally paying us to help you get access to this free tool that could change your entire life. But there it is. What a weird, wonderful thing. Please take this opportunity. Who knows when it will come again? Visit 80,000hours.org/TaleFoundry to get started. Well, that was not quite what I was expecting. No wonder this show was so popular. I obviously have a lot to say, but let me give you a little background before I get into it. The Twilight Zone aired from 1959 to 1963. It's science fiction, mostly. There's some horror in there too, some mystery, some paranormal fantasy, but its main reputation is that of a pioneer in the sci-fi genre. That's because most science fiction shows back then were more focused on adventure. Superheroes, giant killer ants, aliens, robots, space princesses in skimpy outfits, that kind of stuff. The Twilight Zone, by contrast, is subtle. It wanted not just to scare or excite its audience, but to make them think. Basically, The Twilight Zone was one of the first TV shows to take science fiction seriously. And because it became so popular, it was also what opened many Americans' eyes to the possibilities of speculative fiction in general. Okay, that's the background. It was a different time, and you would expect that to affect the experience of watching it, right? Well, not really. I have to admit, I did think The Twilight Zone would be kind of hard to watch, even for me. I don't know, I just thought it would be full of